Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar session on OER for COVID. I'm Sanjay Mishra from the Commonwealth of Learning. And today with me, we're joining with a distinguished panel, along with Wayne McIntosh from the OER Foundation. We have Toron from ICDE, Mapine from UNISA, who is also our call chair for Open Educational Resources, and Martin from Open University, who is also OER call chair. We are also expecting today Janet from UNESCO Communication and Information Paris. I hope she will be able to join anytime. I'm very happy to see participants from different countries, South Africa, Sweden, UK, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, and if I miss any other people so far I have seen. But thank you very much everyone for joining us in this session. Everybody's mic is muted at this stage. I would request you to type in your comments, suggestions, questions on the chat box, and one of us will follow it up at the end. Many of you, if you have any concern about video or chat, I would suggest you to use your own discretion. We are recording this session, and the recording will be available openly for everyone at a later stage. At this stage, I would just like to give a brief overview about why this initiative is happening and what is happening, and then we'll go forward. So just to highlight you, I'm going to share my screen right now. Of this OER for COVID initiative of Commonwealth of Learning and OER Foundation. It's an open online community support network that we are trying to engage with community in order to promote use of OER in the current difficult circumstances of COVID-19. We would like to assess the needs in different countries through this community network so that we can effectively support. If here I have written Commonwealth countries, but we are actually looking at wider global participation in this process, but we might be able to focusing on some of the Commonwealth countries' needs in more particularly. We would like to curate openly licensed resources as a community practice so that we are able to support educators and learners transitioning to online learning. We would like to showcase open technologies to minimize the risk of proprietary vendor lock-in, particularly post-COVID situation when you have worked on something and you may not have access. So it's better to use open technologies. And we would like to share OER-enabled online courses so that there is more reuse, remixing happen. Promoting OER is the basic purpose on that, and then build capacity of educators to design OER-enabled online courses so that they can quickly collate resources from OER resources and then build their own course and share with their own students more effectively. So these are the key things for which we are gathering. We are looking into how we can tap into your intellectual capacities. All the participants, everybody is a resource for us. We are looking into your ideas, your views, so that we can tap into those and build more effective intervention through this collaborative network. The agenda will follow like this. Briefly, after this intervention that I am trying to introduce this, I'll show a video message from Professor Asa Kanwar, President and Chief Executive Officer of Commonwealth of Learning. Then I will give the floor to our distinguished panelists to take about 5 minutes to share their own experiences and own ideas in their own context or in the regional context, to say what should be done and how we could do it. And then Dr. Wayne will join in and come and share the short-term and medium-term activities that has already planned, and how do we engage with the community more. And this will be followed by more discussion and questions from the participants coming up, and we will close at the end. We are planning to be for 1 hour, but there might be some extension possible with your all permission, depending on how much people get engaged in the whole process. At this moment, I would like to also thank all our partner institutions who are supporting this initiative. Special thanks to National Commission for UNESCO in New Zealand, who has provided support for a server Big Blue Button for synchronous discussions and engagement in the coming days. A big support has come from UNESCO Institute for Information Technology and Education, ICDE, today represented by the Secretary General Torun here. We are also supported by the World Bank Group Open Learning Campus and Open Education Global, and of course the Big Blue Button. The server will be also helping us in the upcoming webinars that we will be taking forward. So a big thank to everyone, and especially to the participants. Without their support, I don't think this initiative will be successful. So thank you very much for joining, and we are looking forward to your contribution. Allow me kindly to go to the next video presentation.
Greetings from the Commonwealth of Learning. Today we are in a situation that none of us could have imagined a few weeks ago. Over 80% of students are not able to attend schools due to closures because of COVID-19. This has resulted in a learning crisis that needs our collective support. Open distance and online learning have become the only means for educational institutions to keep the doors of learning open. For some of them, this is an entirely new experience and uncharted territory. How can we help them and each other tide over this crisis? Online learning and open educational resources, or OER, are being recommended by many as a way forward. With years of experience in both these areas, online learning as well as OER, we at CALL know that these solutions work very well. This is not the time for too much planning. What we need right now is concrete action on the ground to help teachers and students to continue the teaching learning process without disruption. So instead of starting from scratch, let us use existing OER to keep the doors of learning open. CALL has been involved with OER even before the term was first coined, and has been part of the OER movement for many years now. And CALL has worked with governments and educational institutions to create policy, develop courses, and build capacity for integrating OER in teaching and learning. The principles of openness, sharing, and collaboration that characterize the OER movement will guide us in our collective response to this crisis. This will include capacity development and the curation of courses for specific requirements. The OER4COVID initiative aims to follow a community consultation process to establish an open online community support network for educators tasked with transitioning to online learning. The community will assist in the process of curating openly licensed resources to assist educators and learners. We will also build capacity among educators to design and develop OER-enabled online courses for local needs. I am thankful to the OER Foundation for coming forward to support CALL to facilitate this process of online community and capacity building. I also welcome the UNESCO International Institute for Technology in Education, Moscow, and the International Council for Open and Distance Education as partners. Special thanks are due to the New Zealand National Commission for UNESCO for making it possible to provide web conferencing tools for synchronous communications for educators. The Commonwealth of Learning believes that knowledge is our commonwealth and that OER have tremendous potential for helping us make a smooth transition to online provision. Thank you for being part of this community and for your commitment to collaboration and sharing. Stay safe, stay well, and stay cheerful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think I will take the next step and I'll ask the panelists to make the intervention. I'll follow this order and ask Torun first, Professor Mapine next, and Professor Martin afterwards. And if in between Janef joins, then we'll take Janef at the end. With that, may I request Torun to make the presentation and intervention.
Yes, thank you, Sanjaya. My name is Torun Gjelsvik. I'm the Secretary General of ICD, International Council for Open and Distance Education. We're a global NGO, and as far as I know, the oldest membership organization for open, distance, and flexible learning. We're based in Oslo, the Secretariat, with a generous support from the Norwegian government. And here in Norway, we have been under lockdown due to COVID-19 for 4 weeks now. All the schools, kindergartens, and university buildings are closed, and it's been a massive shift to homeschooling, digital teaching, and online exams. The government announced 2 days ago now that they will reopen the kindergartens and the schools for the smallest children by the end of this month. So that gives some hope for better times. Meanwhile, we are doing, as CALL and many other organizations in the field, trying to respond to the crisis by providing valuable resources and meaningful activities to support teachers, learners, and educators across the globe. We have 250 plus partners and members in all world regions, mainly based in higher education. And we're in a consultative partnership with UNESCO. ICD launched a dedicated portal site from icd.org/corona with resources and tips for online distance learning. And we also launched a campaign, a task force and a campaign under the hashtag Learning Together to emphasize the message that this is a collaborative effort that we need to work on together. And we entered into this partnership with CALL and OER4 COVID very naturally, because we also have been a part of the open education movement for many years now. I just wanted to share with you some input that we received from the first 2 webinars that ICDE ran during the first week of our campaign. We had 2 webinars, one on educational leadership during the coronavirus pandemic and one on teaching and learning in open online distance. And we received a lot of interest, especially for the practical one on distance teaching and learning. And we had great panelists and many questions, also some of them unanswered. So I thought I'd bring forward a couple of those to feed into the discussions today. So the main questions are some of the questions that we already have for many years now. A general skepticism about online materials. What tools can we rely on? What about quality assurance? How can we quality assure content and especially open educational resources? Who does that? Where do we find the resources? And are there any open LMS or platforms or video conferencing tools that we can use? There's a general lack of knowledge of OER, both from a user and a public perspective. And also this main question from many practitioners, but also from educational leaders, how can we develop resources effectively, efficiently? And I wanted to give you an example from my own hometown here in Oslo, the Oslo Metropolitan University of Norway, where faculty members recently published an article where they raise a concern about that. They say that there's a huge willingness among faculty members to produce digital content now. So they do that a lot. However, few of them, well, they're not unwilling to share. It's just that it doesn't happen. And so why is that? So the university has both a closed platform where teachers can put in the content and address them to their students, but they also have an open platform where the purpose is to share throughout the whole education sector in Norway. So these faculty members noted that since the lockdown in Norway on the 13th of March, more than 1,000 videos and resources were published on this closed site, whereas only 7 were shared on this open site. And so why did that happen? They're not blaming their colleagues, the faculty members, because they only follow the instructions from the educational leadership. There's an urgency which leads to this quick and easy solution. So the instructions were to use the platform that they know the most, they knew the most, because it was easy to use. And that's why all these resources were locked inside. So the conclusion of the article is that, you know, everyone doesn't have to share, but if at least 20% of the faculty members had done that, everyone across the higher education section in Norway would have a rich package of tools in most of the subject areas to use, and they could spend more time to rather focus on guidance, interaction with the students. So it's a call for a stronger leadership on this focus of opening up education and sharing the resources. And I thought I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Torun, for that brief about activities of ICDE and your in local context. Janep has joined now. Welcome, Janep. We will now go to Professor Mapine and then to Professor Weller, and then we'll come to Janep for your intervention. So that's the order we're looking at this moment. Professor Mapine, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. Thank you for this opportunity to come over and just to speak about my views about OER from our context. My name is Mpine Marroquin. I am a professor at the University of South Africa, and I'm also a Commonwealth of Learning chair in open education practices and resources. I'm just gonna take you through what has been happening in the African context, because I've done quite a few work in other countries within the continent. And I've also been working in South Africa. OER is not relatively new because there have been a lot of projects that have been done in the continent since 2005 when TESA started with teacher education programs, open educational resources, and there have been projects that have been done by OER Africa, OER for schools, and there had been a big research project that was done at the Route for Day, the Global South Research Project that was looking at why people are not using the OER, the access and all that. However, some government even have gone as far as having national policies on OER. But all these projects, because they are donor-based projects, they have not been mainstreamed into universities or into schools. OER has been there, being developed by other people, helping communities in the continent. However, it has not been mainstreamed. And part of the problem is that it becomes a project that is based in a particular department. And when the project ends, like any other project, it's not integrated into the whole education system or the whole education structure, or even the institution itself. So there have been a lot of pockets of good practice in relation to OER. Now, when you try to do it at a scale that we would like to do it at, and we have seen that it has been done, but it has not been fully integrated into the system itself, it begs some kind of, we need to go back and ask ourselves, what is it that creates the problem that we find ourselves in? And there are a lot of challenges, I think, that has to do with this. Online learning and open educational resources are not particularly popular in our context. Every manager or executive within a university, when you ask them about OER, they see the benefits, but they don't necessarily create an environment where every person can buy into it. In my institution, for an example, we have had strategies that have to that are meant to push OER within the university, but there's still very little uptake in that regard. Now, part of the problem that I see is that we get into an environment that has its own regulatory bodies, and it's rigid, and change is not happening as quick as it should. And maybe we need to start with the change management. But with the COVID-19 that just came in, change has to happen very, very fast, especially in context, in developing context, where the familiarity with online learning is very, very little, if any. Now, we are talking about a major change in terms of pedagogical practices. How do we teach online? What is it? And this is not really, it's a major challenge for developing context, because it's basically coming into uncharted waters and territories that we have never even had to deal with it. And maybe for us in ODL, this is a good opportunity for us to push this agenda that we've been trying to push for the last 10, 15 years and has not been received with the speed or with the urgency that is needed. And all of a sudden, there's an urgent need for this. Governments now are, they are relying on us to come up with plans on how to ensure that learning continues even during this process. And given the long lockdown, learning can only happen through online learning, through mobile learning in our context, especially in the developing context, where we still have problems with ICT infrastructure and connectivity and the costs that goes with it. Because now I think it's the time that the government should step in and talk to service providers for accessible data, for cheaper data, so that people can be able to learn and continue to do the work that they're supposed to do. Because that conversation has not been as strong as it should be now, that probably our governments need to begin to push mobile-based service providers, because in this context, mobile learning may be one of the biggest things that we can pursue because of the problems with ICT infrastructure. Many people are able to connect to the internet through cell phones and other mobile-based devices. So having said that, there is a big need for capacity building for educators during this time. I cannot even begin to tell you how massive this need is. And because of this, we need solutions that are going to assist our educators, teachers, lecturers to begin to use these online platforms to teach. Now, we are dealing with people who have never, ever taught online. And when we even go down to educators, they don't even understand what you're talking about. All they're familiar with is a classroom-based teaching. They can use resources. There are lots of resources that are available and that we can go into, that can be curated for the purpose of this, but how do they teach these resources in an online space? So I think one of our biggest issue is to get people, maybe even an introduction of dealing with change, just about the change management, just about changing the way we've been doing business. We didn't choose to be on lockdown as we are, and people need to understand that based on this, there are major changes that needs to be taken, and very fast. That's another issue. They need to be taken in very fast. Now, the programs, the capacity development programs need to be supported. We need support programs more that could help people to use OERs, that will help people to use these resources for teaching and learning. But when I'm talking about support, I asked a few, before we even got into this, I asked a few of my teacher friends and I send them links on OERU courses that they may be interested in taking. And actually I drove them to look at the digital literacy one, because I think that's the most critical one, where they need to be equipped with the basic skills on digital literacy. And then after 3 days, I checked with them again. Did you go in? Did you register and whatever? They don't even know where to go, what to do, where to start. So the process for me was, you need to register first. Let's register. Let's all come together via Zoom, and then let's register for this course. This is where you click. This is what you do. And even navigating through these processes, it's quite a difficult thing or different thing. So one thing that I see is that the resources are there, but we need support structures that need to be in place. And these support structures can be done through mobile-based platforms. We can use, like with my group, I was using the WhatsApp. So with this WhatsApp, we could say, now press the button on your right. Can you see where it's written, sign in and register? Now press register. So those are some of the the systems that needs to be in place in order for us to be able to move forward with this, because we expect them to teach using the online platforms themselves, but they are struggling to even understand how the platform works. So I think that's one thing that we need to do on our side, to build support systems that they are familiar with, and then work on it that way. The other thing also is that our governments need help from us, from academics. They are very clear. I've been in conversations with the Department of Basic Education, not even higher education. They need to find out how best can they help teachers to start teaching. And here they're teaching students who are from marginalized communities, who are from disadvantaged communities, who don't even have the basics that we are talking about. How do we ensure that that happens without computers, without other structures that are needed, connectivity, for an example? How do we ensure that that happens? So again, it's a challenge. It's a major challenge for us. But what we could do, what we were talking about from the Regional Distance Education Association of Southern Africa, is also to start doing policy briefs to give guidelines to our governments, so that they are able to see where they could press buttons or where they can enable this process to happen. So I think, for me, in a nutshell, we need also to look at other options, like the mobile-based platform solution that other OERU uses a lot, and that's very critical for our context. But the other thing is the issues of that are beyond your control, but the issues of ICT infrastructure, and that has to be done very quickly in our context. So with those, I think I will just say finally is that we need to do this at a very, very high speed. Our lockdown is scheduled to end next week, Thursday, but it doesn't look like it will come to an end. It really doesn't look like it will come to an end. It looks like it's going to continue. And in the process, we cannot just sit and wait until everything is all done so that we can go back to our classrooms. There's absolutely no time for going back to a classroom. So it's all about supporting educators who are teachers in classrooms, and also supporting university lecturers to begin to teach online, so that once they teach online, then their students will be able to know how to teach online.
Thank you, Professor Mapinen. Thank you very much for the intervention, giving the range of issues and challenges, and what are the key steps forward, including technology access and capacity building. May I now go to Professor Martin Weiler, please?
Thanks. Yeah, okay, so I'm Martin Weller from the Open University in the UK. Like everyone else, I think we're on lockdown. I forget which week we're into now. I forget which day it is, to be honest, but so we're deep into lockdown now. At the Open University, I've run the OER Research Hub, which was a research project looking at the impact of OER. And I'm currently the director of GoGM, which is a global network of OER doctoral researchers. I'll come on to kind of bigger pictures, but I think it's just been interesting to watch with our global network of OER researchers. I think the first thing we needed to do more than anything was just the kind of emotional support for what's happening now, kind of much more than academic support or, methodology help, those kind of things. So we set up a WhatsApp group, and I know it sounds sort of trivial, but I think, and actually just we've got everyone to join that who are all based, in Australia, Kenya, Brazil, Canada, all over the world. And it's just a place for people to kind of come together. I think actually that, at the moment, that kind of emotional connection is probably more important than anything else. So at the Open University, we have the Open Learn site, which is lots of Open University materials available under a Creative Commons license, and that's been going since 2006. I'll stick a link in. And has, no, that's not the right link, and has just passed 75 million viewers. So it's the sort of largest OER repository in the UK. And I think it's interesting. I accept that now is not the time to sort of be saying, I told you so, but I think it was interesting when the crisis hit that actually you really saw the value of having things that are openly licensed. You know, there are some good MOOCs out there, and people are taking MOOCs about learning how to become an online deliverer, but you really need the open license if you want to be able to take content and repurpose it. And so I feel like, Wayne, this is when your time has finally come. You see, you can say I've been saying this all along. So but yeah, certainly I think that, you know, the open license is really important. There's probably an issue around that. So for instance, in Open Learn, our licenses are share alike, non-commercial, Creative Commons, which isn't the most open license. And there are various reasons why it ended up being that format. And I wonder whether there's a bit of help around people understanding licenses, you know, and particularly the non-commercial one can be quite tricky if people think, well, if I'm setting up a course for which I'm charging people money to study, does that count as a commercial license? So I think we might need to, in this kind of sudden rush, help people understand those things very quickly. As I think Mpini was saying, at the Open University, we've suddenly seen a big kind of rush of people coming to us saying, we've just done the online pivot, help us understand how to do distance learning. And that, you know, that's gratifying in a way. They kind of recognise us as that source of expertise. And it's a very different thing. So I've been running drop-in sessions every Wednesday for the sector, sort of trying to give, informally, kind of give Open University expertise. But it's a very different thing from, you know, we take 2 years to produce a course, often with, you know, a team of different academics. And that's very different from saying, make your course online next week, you know. So, but I think what we're seeing now is, after the kind of immediate pivot to Zoom, people are beginning to think kind of more medium and long term as well. There's thinking maybe the start of next semester will be online. So how do we do that kind of more realistically and with that kind of better framework? And so I think there's, I think just as Mpini was saying, it's more about, so I think OER are kind of a really good basis to start with. People need content. And it goes back to the point that Torrance was making about quality as well, you know. And it's interesting, we've kind of had these arguments for a long time around OER, and we kind of feel they're settled. Of course, now we've got a big influx of new people coming in into the kind of the OER and distance learning world, and they haven't been through those discussions like we have many times. So I think, but you know, things around open textbooks and kind of more widely spread OER, they allow people to get around some of that kind of quality issue because they know it's kind of been through, and it comes from a respected provider. You know, so Open Learn, most material in Open Learn, for instance, is stuff that's a byproduct of our courses. So it's kind of been through the same process as our course production model. So people know they can rely on it's kind of good quality. And similarly with like the sort of open textbooks you might get out from the US and stuff. So it allows people to quickly have content, and then they can build what they can then focus on. I think it was Tom's point was it gives them more time to kind of structure the activities around that, and that's what they can, their kind of pedagogic expertise can come into play. They don't need to develop the content. It's about, you know, rather structuring the activity. So read this, then go and do this, or have this discussion, and we'll do that kind of stuff. So I think that helps. But actually, I think what's been interesting to see come through a lot of the kind of discussions we've been having is, I think both speakers have said this, is that it's really just that shift for lots of educators and lots of students suddenly been learning at a distance and online. And there's lots of things that they don't really understand or are new to them. You know, it's like, so understanding student issues around student support. And so I think often even just structuring things so that they're asynchronous rather than synchronous. I think we've seen a lot of schools and that shift online and just expect students to sit down in front of Zoom, you know, from 9 AM to 4 PM kind of thing. And that just doesn't work. And so getting people to think about how you can make the best use of the synchronous time, if that's what you want to do, and then have asynchronous activities that take place around that. But also then I think beginning to understand the amount of work that the physical structure of a university campus does for people in terms of organising learning and structuring their process. And they go to this place, a lecture hall, to receive content. They go to the library to get resources, they go to here to socialise, and all that's kind of embedded in the architecture, which we don't see, we don't acknowledge often, so we're kind of used to it. But when you go online or at distance, you have to kind of explicitly surface all of those aspects. And that becomes quite difficult. So you kind of really have to make an effort to make all those things happen that kind of happen naturally elsewhere. So I think there's, so coming back to OER eventually, I think there's kind of two aspects here. One is helping giving educators a good content base from which they can build out, particularly in the medium term. And the second is allowing universities to have, so the link I put in there is a collection of open learn material about taking or teaching online and stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily they need to take our stuff and study, but at least they can take our content about how to do that and then adapt it to, whichever university wants to deploy it as their staff development thing. So I think there's kind of two angles that OER can come at this with. Another sector we've been having discussion with is schools. So I live in Cardiff, and I know that the county council have been in touch with the Open University about trying to help them sort of transition to distance learning. School education isn't really my area, so I'm more higher education, but you can certainly see there, particularly in the US where they've been working with open textbooks and stuff, how a much more OER based model is going to be the way forward for lots of schools, I think. And so maybe we might see, in a kind of strange way, we might see the pandemic being the driver to force some of that flip around how we resource stuff for schools and education to more openly resourced rather than purchasing copyrighted goods. So in the long term it might happen. So I'll stop there, but if anyone's got any queries about the OU in particular or anything around that, I'll let you know.
Thank you, Professor Martin. Thank you very much for the intervention, particularly giving the perspective of the Open University with Open Learn example and the kind of challenges and how it is difficult to transform overnight to online learning offering and the context. I think there will be a lot of questions because Open University, everybody looks at OU as a model to learn online learning. So I'm certainly expecting a lot of questions to come back. But at this stage, it's my pleasure to invite Janeb Baruglu from UNESCO Communication and Information Sector, please.
Good morning. Let me see if I can turn on. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me. I heard the presentations and it's very interesting. And I'd like to share with you what we're doing at UNESCO and what's happening in terms of the questions posed. First of all, in terms of headquarters, Paris, France is shut down almost completely. We're confined, as they say, and it's been 3-4 weeks. And in terms of our colleagues in the different offices, it depends, of course, on the national regulations in place. But as almost half the world's population is now under lockdown, so is half this applies also to UNESCO offices. But we're working online, and we have a lot of initiatives going on online right now. In terms of open educational resources, as you may know, the member states of UNESCO adopted the only existing standard-setting instrument in open educational resources in November. And this was a recommendation on open educational resources, which called on all governments, all of them in the world, to work on, that are member states of UNESCO, to work on 5 areas. The first one was capacity building, so being able to find, use, reuse OER, policy, issues related to inclusiveness, accessible OER, and making sure that vulnerable groups are able to access, use, reuse, and share OER, and sustainability, so business plans and how open educational resources can be part of a larger ongoing system, and finally, international cooperation in the 4 areas I just mentioned. We launched last month throughout the month of March. We established a dynamic coalition of partners who would to work on the 4 different areas. This would be the implementation of the 5th area. And we came up with a work plan on how to go forward. This was during the month of March, so now we have to see how this work plan can also be very responsive to the current reality that we're in and the future reality we probably will be going into globally in terms of the post-COVID moment. The idea would be to see how the 4 areas that I just spoke to you about would be responsive and how we can get international cooperation around using OER to respond to these challenges that have been brought up by the different speakers. At the same time, we're preparing a statement that we will be putting up, I think Tuesday, I was just told, in which we call upon all our partners to support this global action in ensuring that open educational resources are part of the solution and used and developed further in order to ensure that it's globally understood that they are a means for sharing knowledge and learning. What we've seen is that with the school closures, with the confinements in the house, in residences, there is the access to learning and knowledge has been blocked and re-navigated a certain way. And we'd like to make sure that in this re-navigation, it's kind of like a river, that it goes towards open educational resources. And this is something which we should look at right now. What will happen is very important, of course, but it will also probably set the stage for a mindset in the future that will be accepted by the international community. And we need to make sure that open educational resources is part of this and a major part of the next steps and the current steps. We've also done 2 things which I would like to bring to your attention, and I will share with you, and I think it might be interesting for the participants if you would be interested in getting involved. We're launching a hackathon, and one of the issues is to develop apps on how those 4 areas I just mentioned, the capacity building, policy, sustainability, and inclusiveness issues and quality issues can be actually contextualized and used OER for what can be done exactly. What are some apps that can be developed to support this? It's a hackathon, so we'll see what happens. It's being launched this week. No, I'm sorry, it's being launched tomorrow, I think, or today, and it goes for a week. I'll send more information to the organizers so you can that you would have the information. We also launched a set of media information literacy messages on disinformation and health, which are openly licensed, which we'd like to invite you to share. They're very short messages. They're very to the point and attractive, and they're on open licenses, so they can be modified and they can also be translated. I'll also share those with you. We also have 2 online resources that we've had for some time that are particularly timely right now. Some of you, I think, may know of the UNESCO ICT Competency Framework for Teachers. It's about supporting teachers and skill sets and areas to develop teaching resources on using technology in education. And we also have a website, a platform on OER Commons, which has the OER resources for each of these areas from a dozen universities, of which 2 of them are in South Africa. We've worked with Wits University and with Matthew Gongwe Institute, and we've also worked a lot with SIDE and with OER Africa on these issues, and I think it might be timely. I'll send the link to that. We also have another resource which we work with ICDE on, which is on the persons with disability, and also with COLE actually, on guidelines on the use of technologies for setting up ODL that's accessible for persons with disabilities, which has some annexes that provide a list of tools that can be used, considerations linked to universal design for learning, etc. So those are what's there and what we're doing. Our aspiration overall is to work with all partners and to ensure that we are able to provide you with a macro voice, if you like, on what's happening, what's going on, to reach out to our 193 member states and to say that these are the different tools that we have, and to highlight that open educational resources is part of the conversation. There is a recommendation that governments have signed that we would like to see now implemented in terms of the current situation, with solutions that can be used globally and locally. So voila. I'm going to turn my camera off in a second, if you don't mind, because I'm not so sure about my bandwidth after. I hope you don't mind.
Thank you, Janet. You have any more point, or I'll get back to you if there are questions?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. May I now request Wayne?
Hey, hi everyone. Well, there's no better platform to start chatting about OER than following the foundation of the UNESCO OER recommendation. And, you know, from our side and all of those that have been kind of working in the trenches, a huge shout out to UNESCO and Zainab and the work you and many others have done in creating that platform, you know, to move forward. And you can certainly count on our support in living out the UNESCO OER recommendations. So, yeah, I just wanted to start there. I also just want to highlight that this is my first OER, or my first COVID crisis that I have faced, and I suspect it's the first crisis for many others. And I'm kind of just reflecting a little. I don't think I have any superior authority in terms of how to navigate the COVID crisis. But there's one thing for sure I do know, that is if we do work together, our chances in addressing these challenges are going to be way easier and result in more efficient outcomes. So just by way of quick introduction, I just wanted to give a brief overview of some of the things that we are doing with the OER for COVID initiative. So that should be coming through now. There we go. Of course, I think the most important starting point is just to remember and reiterate that there is no form of educational delivery that is more cost effective, more scalable, or more sustainable than open education. And we're going to put this to good use in grappling with the COVID challenges. And this is a graphic that's been circulating on social media from Phil Hill, which I think is actually quite useful in thinking about these challenges, that we are going to have to use a phased approach. I mean, obviously now initially we've had the emergency responses of trying, particularly for face-to-face institutions, trying to pivot to online learning, and there are a number of resources that have been made available in this space. A lot of the transition has been to synchronous communication technologies, using web conferencing and other tools. But as we progress, deeper into the challenges, we will see a bit of a drop and hopefully a stronger foundation for the future. But I just wanted to highlight this because I think there are, particularly in terms of what we're trying to do with OER for COVID, there will be a number of short-term emergency responses that we're dealing with. But at the same time, I think we also need to start thinking about the medium-term interventions as we move forward. And so some of the short-term things that we at the OER Foundation and the OERU can assist with, and I can only speak to the examples I'm familiar with, we can, for any institution in the world that is transitioning to open online learning, we can provide free access and hosting to all of OERU's open online courses, which have been designed for independent self-study. And that may help some institutions because it's a disaggregated model, which means institutions in whatever country could still develop their own assessments, or in fact reuse the assessments that we've published under open licenses to assess for local credit at the local institutions. The other short-term intervention which we can help with, and I'm very grateful to the funding support that we've had from the New Zealand National Commission for UNESCO, is we've set up an instance, a server of Big Blue Button, which is an open source web conferencing tool, which we'll make available to all OER for COVID collaborators working on this initiative for free at no cost, without having to worry about individuals sacrificing their personal data, or institutions worrying about how they're going to afford proprietary technologies once this COVID thing is over. The other offer, of course, where we can help is through our OERU Outreach Partnership Program, which is a philanthropic initiative where institutions in low and lower middle income countries around the world, as well as all small states in the world, can join the OERU partner network for free and receive the benefits of the total network. So those are immediate areas where we can help in this initiative. Thinking more of the medium term, and particularly the issues raised by others around awareness raising of OER, capacity building, we will, in partnership with the Commonwealth of Learning and the International Council for Open and Distance Education, offer facilitated cohort instances of a number of capacity development courses, including the OER Copyright and Open Licensing in a Digital Age course, which we will launch a cohort instance on the 6th of May. We will provide free access to the competency test, which we have for educators to earn the certificate of competency in copyright and Creative Commons, and we will make this freely available to any educator on the planet. And following that, we will make available our open online course, Digital Skills for Collaborative OER Development, which is really focused on developing OERs using a collaborative model and a range of open technologies. So those are areas where we can help in the medium term. One of the important messages, and particularly with our discussions earlier today with the Asia and Pacific regions, I think it's critically important that we act locally and share globally. I mean, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to these challenges, and we need to be cognizant of the local contextual challenges. And how we aim to structure this within the OER for COVID initiative is we'll be placing out an open call to anybody who wants to volunteer as a coordinator at multiple levels, whether it is at the institutional level, the provincial or state level, the national level, or regional level. We are going to put a call out for coordinators to help coordinate activities in the respective regions, and we will provide these coordinators with an account on Big Blue Button, because we recognize the majority of teachers and educators are in lockdown now. So we will provide these capabilities for coordinators and their local teams to interact with each other synchronously around potentially a number of different work areas or work streams, if you will. And there may well be more. We're thinking we need a work stream around curriculum development or curriculum design and learning design to support content developers in, remixing OER for their purposes. Perhaps we need a technology work stream. It would be extremely valuable, and this relates to Impinye's experiences, just helping academic staff, to sort of get started with these online learning experiences, having local facilitators both online and maybe through web conferencing using Big Blue Button. I think we need a research support stream, because I think it's important that we actually go out and find out what the actual needs are through perhaps a short succinct survey. What are the pressing needs that OER for COVID could address? And this relates to Martin's point, and perhaps should be the first working stream, thinking about educator health and well-being. These are stressful times for many folk. And I think we need to think about ways in how we can support our colleagues. It would be great if we could have professionals, particularly the library professionals, helping us out around resource creation, finding OERs that are suitable to the needs we identify, and then also thinking about our community communications. So that's kind of sort of a high level area. I will be, after these webinars, I'll be opening up 2 forums on our website, looking for ideas, questions, and support to the short-term and medium-term interventions. And I just wanted to highlight from the website, the OER4COVID website, there is a link here to the range of open source tools we are using to help support the community and educators. So there are a number of, we have the open source discourse forums. We have our own social media site that is not in any way related to any proprietary company. We use Mastodon, so people want to connect via social media. We have safe and open environments to do that. And we'll also make our own chat forums available. We use an engine called Rocket Chat for people that are actually working on course developments, to stay in touch with each other. So let me just leave it there. And at this stage, I'll hand back to Sanjaya, and then I guess we can start having a look at any questions, thoughts, contributions from the folk who are here.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. And I think you are very much right. We are a little late we have completed almost an hour, but with the permission of participants and all the panelists, I think we can extend it to about 20 to 30 minutes more, so that we actually capture the intelligence of the participants. I see there are many participants who are very active in the OER space. I request them to raise their hand, and then I'll allow them to speak, come on video. Any volunteers at this stage to ask any specific question or comment? Yes, Erika Frank.
Hi, great. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your work, and I was wondering if you could talk per the questions that I offered about how those of us who have materials to share, what the most efficient way is of doing that through y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Erika. I think Wen will be able to respond to this more appropriately, particularly how we are planning to share from the platform.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Eric, and thanks for joining us. NextGenU has been going for a long time and is an impressive example of providing open online learning for the medical profession. The short answer to the question is the best way to connect would be just create an account on the forum we've set up, so that everybody that's part of this community can benefit from what you have to offer. This is one of the things that I noticed. I took a quick look at your website, and I see that you have an all rights reserved copyright license, which means it's not possible to adapt, modify, and reuse any of your materials. And so I was wondering if your copyright holders might consider applying an open license so that it would be more beneficial for the open OER community.
Yeah, of course. And I'd be delighted to follow up with talking with you some more about that offline. Thank you, Wayne.
My pleasure. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to ask a question or respond? Any one of us, particularly Martin or Torun, want to speak?
I was wondering if Lars is still available, who posted a link to the Open Network Learning website.
Let me see.
I'm not sure if he's still with us.
Yeah, Lars is still there. I'm just allowing if wants to talk.
Yeah, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for letting me talk. Yeah, I mean, I just posted that we have been running this open network learning course with a base in Sweden, but I mean, it's open and we have collaborators in several countries: South Africa, Germany, Switzerland, Singapore is with us. So it's an open course where we actually try to work with collaborative and problem-based learning. So it's getting close into designing for collaborative learning, and I think I mean the whole course is open. It's open, and we use the open license, and we are really looking to. I mean, we started with a couple of institutions in Sweden, but then it has grown. So the course is running at the moment. I pasted the link in the chat. I mean, you can have a look at it, and we are looking to find collaborators internationally, because that's one of the ideas with the course, to collaborate and create a community across borders, actually. So the course is aimed for educators to meet and to learn and experience what it is to be in an online environment.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you very much. I think
I can paste the link again in the chat to see here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it will be really useful. At this moment, I think there are some people I know on the there in the discussion. I would like to request them if they would like to speak. Like Jan Newman, I would like to give the floor to him if you would like to talk. Jan, are you there? I don't see Jan. I also see Eva sometime back. I don't know. Eva is there. Eva, would you like to talk something related to your experiences?
Yes, I am here. I have nothing, no special question, but I'm really thankful for this initiative. It is so fantastic, and as many of you have said, this is a great opportunity to really make open online learning available for all. This is the time we have, and we all have to work for that, and we all have to support everyone who needs support in this this terrible time. But I think we can make a change, and then will become a time after this terrible period. So the slide you had there, Wayne, about how can we sustain and how can we make things going forward, I think it's really, really important. And we do have an important role to play. So thanks a lot for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Eva. Anyone would like to ask any question or comment, especially from your own country context, what's happening with OER and the COVID situation? You're most welcome to raise your hand. And if Jan is there, you can speak. Otherwise, what we'll do is I'll go back to the panelists for their quick round of words from them, and then we would like to close.
Just Sanjay, maybe just before you do that, and Martin, I don't like putting people on the spot, so to speak, but one of the things your course, how can you take teaching online? From recollection, the actual source files, for the materials actually can be downloaded for remix, which I think would be extremely, extremely beneficial for many colleagues. I'm thinking of the multilingual challenges that we have in many parts around the world, and maybe one of the activities that maybe India or the local lingua in the Pacific regions could maybe start, work on translating some of those resources.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for the plug, Wayne. Yeah, you're right. So they are downloadable. I'm just checking which formats they can get them in. Yeah, Word, Kindle, PDF, and EPUB. So I'll put a link to that specific course in the chat. Yeah, so you're free to download and upload. And I think you're right, Wayne. I should have stressed that. Thanks for being my agent. But yeah, I think
because kind of what I'm thinking, when we run the digital skills for collaborative OER development, maybe we could get different working groups in different languages. Translating those courses for for local countries, so which might be something quite meaningful to be doing. Yeah.
When we have a hand raised, so I'll allow Sadiq to talk. Sadiq.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Sadiq. I'm joining from Ghana, Accra, and I think I missed some of the sessions, but I'm happy to join the later part. I just want to share some of the things that we are doing in Ghana with regards to OER. I've been working with a colleague from Southern Connecticut State University to build an open educational network in Ghana as part of the Mozilla Open Leaders X program. But the first launch was in the University for Development Studies in Navrongo, where we engage students and educators to curate and assemble open educational resources using their own websites. And we basically rely on the indie web building blocks to help build an open educational network. So what we do is we provide free websites for students and educators to build their own network, start curating and assembling open educational resources. But the challenge we have is, aside from the internet connectivity, we also have challenges with available resources and acceptance. Many people, when we engage some of the educators, they were still not understanding, or they didn't know much about open educational resources, and we have challenges with existing resources as well. So I want to know if someone is working on a similar project, or someone working with students in helping them understand open educational resources and how their contributions are valuable with regards to open educational resources, especially in the global south.
Thank you, Sadiq, for the intervention. I think there are a large number of examples. Anyone, Professor Mapine, would you like to take this?
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I think I'm going to respond to at least two, maybe what Wayne raised about the issue of translation and into different languages. What I found is that it's not the language that is a problem. It is the contextual issues within the resource itself. If we're talking about digital literacy, let's say in my language, it's something that probably someone may not even understand what that means until you have to, when we translate, we need to work it in such a way that it is contextual. You pick on things that people may be stuck in as they are trying to go through the resources. That way you are clarifying what that is all about, because sometimes translation becomes very direct and it creates a lot of problems as well as people goes along. But if you contextualize stuff, then people are able to move out of where they get stuck because of a particular term or of a particular concept or of a particular, a concept that they need to work with in order for them to understand the bigger context. So I agree that is one area where we can support our students as they go through the study material. When back in the days, we used to use, at UNISA, we used to use something called study guide. You will have a resource in terms of a textbook, but then you'll have a study guide that guides you through the resource. So this is what I'm having in mind, that if we can just have something that supports the study guide, something that supports them through the resources that they are working through. And that way we'll be able to assist our students in different ways. And maybe even the study guide, maybe in the form of a podcast, where here it's the process. But if you want to understand certain concepts that may be difficult to understand, press this podcast that is sprinkled throughout the resource itself, so that students can be able to unlock those areas that becomes locked as they are going through the resources. So for me, the support part of it, it can be a series of videos on how to, the how-to stuff, how to navigate the online space, how to do this, how to do that. So that that's where I find once people get stuck with the how-to aspect of it and they cannot move out of the how-to, then they just leave it, especially if it's online.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Mapine. I think I don't see any other question at this stage. When do you like to ask any question or reflect on any of these issues that has come out so far?
No, I'm going to be kind because I realize it's well past midnight for some of our colleagues, and I think the ground has been covered well, and I want to respect your sleeping time because I know you've got to be up early for another session tomorrow morning.
No, thank you very much, but I think I will go back to our panelists for quick 30 seconds key message they would like to say to our participants or to all of us as such, that we are all working in the community and we have a platform. We are going to have regular capacity building activities from now onwards or through the platform. We have a synchronous discussion forum. I think Martin alluded to that, the advantage of working on asynchronous approach rather than sitting for before Zoom for hours together. So we have all the necessary tools in place, and I'm sure we will be able to do something great. But at this stage, may I now ask Tarun for any critical remarks?
Thank you, Sanjaya. I think I will raise the issue of awareness of the whole value proposition of OER, which is needed on all the levels, from the micro through the meso to the macro level. It's the individual learner teacher level, it's the institutional educational leadership level, and also the policy level. So I'm wondering if perhaps our collaboration and with the engagement of participants for this OER for COVID campaign, that we could develop messages, clear messages, social media cards, which also can lead to articles and cases from practices, good practice from all over the world. And for the advocacy, translation into several languages is important. I agree with Mpine that for the pedagogical practices, contextualization is core, but for the advocacy and the clear messages to really explain what it's about and what the value proposition is, we need clear messages in different languages on the various levels, and we can only do so by working together, collaborating. So that's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun, for the message. Professor Martin, your 30 seconds message for all of us.
Okay, yeah, I think we're an interesting time, obviously. So, and I think I work at an open university, so I've always been interested in open distance learning, but also the kind of newer OER, open education movement. And I think there's potential here for those, and those two things often operated kind of in parallel but without much overlap. And I think there's a potential here for them to kind of really begin to come together, because I think people will need OER to help them shift online, but also they need to understand how you conduct effective open and distance learning. So I think we'll see those two things beginning to merge, and in the long run, I think that's a good thing. But yeah, so I think it's not just about one or the other anymore. I think we need to kind of talk about them as a package.
Yes, thank you very much for that all encompassing, looking at the package, not looking into isolation from distance learning separately, OER separately, open learning, looking into the open education in a different context. But I think it's all complementary nowadays. I think it's going to be new normal in a different way post-COVID. At this stage, may I request Janef, you have any specific message for 30 seconds?
Yes, I'd like to thank you for the invitation to join this discussion. And I'd also like to say that that UNESCO stands ready to support this initiative, and we're very happy to be part of this initiative. And we are ready also to highlight everything that you're doing at an international level, and also to the level of our other partners, because we are working with a very large group of stakeholders worldwide, and we'd very much like to share this work that you're doing with this worldwide community in their 193 member states, including the governments. So please let us know how we can do this and how we can work together, and we we'll share also the resources that we have, and we hope that it will be useful. And in terms of the statement, we'll get back to you and let you know when it comes out, and we look forward to your support so that we can build on this to work together at a macro level and in the advocacy and any capacity building or sustainability or accessibility issues that would rise from the work that important work that's going on.
Thank you, Jennifer. Excellent message of covering how we can work together on the key issues that UNESCO is promoting. Particularly the OER recommendation is something that is close to all of us that who have been involved in this OER movement for long. Professor Mapine, any key message that you would like to give all of us for 30 seconds, please?
First, I think I want to thank this initiative. It's a very important initiative, and especially from the developing context that we are living in, it's absolutely critical. And I think one area that needs a focus a lot, I think it's our governments, to ensure that our government's policies are in line with ensuring that people continue to learn. And I think that could be a UNESCO role in pushing the government to do the right thing. And I know that they are trying, but it's just that they don't know what to do. So we need to come in very clear, with clear directives and directions that they need, this is what you need to take in order to address this issue and address it as quickly as possible. And I think we are positioned as a unit, we are positioned as an initiative to do that very decisively. Yes, there are institutions, and I think in our context, when government talks about these things and they do go down, institutions are able to take them on, rather than when we try to get it in another level. But I think we still have to do both sides very decisively. And capacity building in our developing context is of utmost importance, especially the reason that I'm including all governments is the issue of dealing with in ICT infrastructure, connectivity, because they have the ability to influence those structures. So we need to work with not only education in different governments department that will pull this whole thing together. This is what and again, we shouldn't forget the issue of building capacity for educators.
Thank you, Professor Mapine. May I now request Wayne? And Wayne, I will put you in a spot now a little bit. If you can add another 30 seconds to talk a little bit about what happened in the Asia Pacific Caribbean thing, particularly the key things they talked about and things that we are already doing, and the commonality of what some of the things that came out in this session.
Well, I think the biggest surprise, of course, was having 230 educators join a web conference session, and the diversity of the region. I mean, I think the most important lesson, and it's come out of our discussions here, we need to find local solutions first, and share globally. I think this is mission critical for the work that we're doing. I'm not sure if I should speak publicly about it, but we had the wonderful experience of a little Zoom bombing going on in our session with folk contributing messages that weren't on theme. And you know, it just speaks to some of the challenges that we're speaking, you know, are dealing with. But I think what is most significant, you know, we launched this initiative about a week ago. We built the website about a week ago, and I've just had a look now. We've 765 educators have signed up to come together to work together and support each other. You know, from 64 different countries, and I'm sure it's going to grow from here. And you know, if we rely on community models, you know, not building the cathedral, but working with the bazaar, we've got a chance of really doing something meaningful. I mean, I'm not sure I can speak for everyone, but I joined this teaching profession for one reason, and that was to share knowledge. And you know, COVID is giving us a wonderful opportunity to return back to our core values as educators, and you know, that's about sharing knowledge. So looking forward to collaborating with everyone online, and more importantly, the learning experience. Like I said, this is my first COVID crisis. I hope I don't have to face another, but I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot.
Thank you, Wayne, for that. Connecting these two sessions. But and I would like to thank every one of you joining today. The panelists, of course, but most importantly, the participants joining on this session. I would just like to highlight, one participant from China who actually joined in the last session as well, and this session. So I think I must thank Mr. Zhang for joining us in both the sessions and encouraging us. I might have put a couple of you on spot. My apologies, but it was just in good intention to get more collaboration ideas on to facilitate the discussions. But I know many of you would be more comfortable probably when in the discussion forum, which is active, a discussion forum already. And I encourage you to post in those discussion forums your issues, questions, how you can help. More important is that we want more solution. Some people call solutionaries. So more solutions, how to help, what you can do, and what we can all tap in, like UNESCO, JANAP can tap in some people, or Commonwealth of Learning can tap in some people, and to connect different people to help each other in different places. Sometimes it is mentoring, sometimes hand holding, sometimes connecting to a link. We need different kinds of help and different times, and that's what we are trying to do here through a community level movement. And we are excited. And I take this opportunity on behalf of the Commonwealth of Learning, OER Foundation, and all the partners supporting this initiative, ICDE, IIT, UNESCO, IITE, UNESCO, NatCom, New Zealand, Open Education Global, and World Bank, to thank you for your time and thank you for your support for this initiative. We will be connecting, and we are already connected through the OER COVID platform. And we look forward to work together to the aims and objectives that we have set for ourselves. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone at this stage. Thank you very much.